The dangerous comfort of being the strong one, and why it is quietly destroying you. The brutal reality check. You became the strong one because nobody checked if you were okay. Somewhere along the way, survival turned into identity, and now you don't even know how to exist without carrying everyone else's weight. The problem is that strength without vulnerability eventually becomes emotional isolation, wearing a mask of competence. The pattern interrupt. People praise you for being resilient, dependable, mature, and emotionally stable, but they never notice the exhaustion hiding underneath your calm exterior. You learned how to function under pressure so well that even your breakdowns became private performances. The role of the strong one is slowly suffocating the human being underneath it. The psychological deep dive. What if your independence is not freedom, but a trauma response? Many people who are praised for being emotionally strong are actually deeply afraid of becoming a burden. So they suppress their needs, hide their pain, and overfunction for everyone around them until their nervous system quietly collapses beneath the pressure. Modern culture romanticizes emotional endurance. The person who never complains is admired. The person who always holds everything together is respected. The one who keeps functioning during chaos becomes everyone's emotional anchor. But very few people ask what it costs to constantly be that person. Because being the strong one often begins as a survival adaptation. Many people learned early in life that vulnerability was unsafe. Maybe emotional needs were ignored. Maybe expressing pain created criticism. Maybe there was no emotionally available adult to lean on. So they adapted. They became self-reliant, emotionally contained, hyper-responsible, highly capable, independent, mature beyond their years. And while these traits may look impressive externally, they often develop from environments where emotional survival depended on suppressing personal needs. Over time, this creates a dangerous internal belief. If I stop functioning, everything falls apart. If I need help, I become weak. If I burden others, they will leave. If I stay useful, I stay valuable. This becomes the foundation of the strong one identity. The person stops asking for support, stops expressing emotional overwhelm, stops admitting exhaustion, stops allowing themselves to be human. They become the helper, the fixer, the stable one, the reliable one, the emotionally composed one. And eventually they feel trapped inside that role. Because once people become dependent on your strength, they often stop seeing your pain. Everyone assumes the strong person can handle more. So more keeps getting placed onto them. More responsibility, more emotional labor, more pressure, more expectations, more silent sacrifice. Until functioning becomes automatic and emotional numbness begins replacing genuine connection. One of the most painful parts of this experience is how lonely it becomes. The strong one is often surrounded by people while feeling emotionally unseen. People vent to them, depend on them, seek wisdom from them, but rarely ask deeper questions about how they are actually doing internally. And even when someone does ask, many strong people instinctively respond with, "I'm fine," because vulnerability now feels unnatural. The nervous system associates openness with danger. Many strong people also fear disappointing others. Their identity became built around reliability, so rest creates guilt. Boundaries create anxiety. Saying "I can't handle this" feels almost impossible. This creates chronic emotional suppression. And suppressed emotions do not disappear. They accumulate inside the body. As tension, fatigue, burnout, anxiety, irritability, brain fog, emotional numbness, difficulty sleeping, loss of motivation, unexpected emotional breakdowns. The body eventually forces the emotions to surface when the mind refuses to acknowledge them voluntarily. This is why many emotionally strong people suddenly collapse after years of handling everything. Not because they became weak, but because the nervous system was never designed for endless emotional containment. Human beings require support, rest, emotional expression, safe connection. Nobody can endlessly carry psychological weight without consequences. There is also an invisible grief attached to being the strong one. The grief of never fully feeling protected yourself. The grief of always being needed more than understood. The grief of constantly holding space for others while secretly wishing someone would notice your exhaustion without being told. Many strong people secretly fantasize about finally being able to fall apart safely, to stop performing competence, to stop carrying everyone emotionally, to stop pretending everything is manageable. But they fear losing their identity if they stop overfunctioning, because strength became their role in relationships. Without that role, many people fear they will no longer feel valuable. This is where healing begins. Understanding that your worth is not dependent on how much suffering you can silently survive. You do not need to earn love through emotional endurance. You do not need to constantly prove your value through sacrifice. You do not need to collapse privately just so everyone else can stay comfortable publicly. True emotional health requires interdependence, not hyper-independence. The strongest people are not those who suppress every need. The strongest people are those who can remain honest about their humanity. Healing often starts with very small acts. Admitting, I'm overwhelmed. I need help. I need rest. I cannot carry this alone. I'm struggling. I don't have the answer right now. For many people, these simple sentences feel terrifying because emotional self-protection became automatic long ago. But vulnerability is not weakness. It is nervous system honesty. Another important part of healing is learning to disappoint people without collapsing internally. Not every problem belongs to you. Not every crisis requires your rescue. Not every emotional burden should become your responsibility. Many strong people unconsciously attract emotionally dependent relationships because they struggle to set limits. But boundaries are not cruelty. They are psychological oxygen. Without them, emotional burnout becomes inevitable. As healthier boundaries develop, something shifts internally. The nervous system begins calming down. Resentment decreases. Authentic relationships become clearer. Energy slowly returns. And for the first time, the person starts existing outside the prison of constant emotional performance. Because being the strong one should never mean abandoning yourself. You are allowed to need support too. You are allowed to rest too. You are allowed to feel confused, emotional, uncertain, overwhelmed, and exhausted without losing your value. Beloved, strength is not the absence of vulnerability. Real strength is the courage to stop performing emotional invincibility while quietly drowning underneath it. You were never meant to carry the entire emotional world on your shoulders alone. The version of you that constantly survives without support is not proof that you are unbreakable. It is proof that you adapted to environments where you felt unsafe being fully human. But healing begins the moment you stop worshiping survival and start honoring your emotional reality. The strong one deserves softness too.